Good morning. Well, good morning, amazing people. This is the Us Review, and I am your host, Carla Davis Luster. Today is season 2, episode 4, Prenup. Should I do or should I don't? Here is where I talk about controversial relationship topics, given the male and the female perspectives when necessary. I always like to recap the previous week's highlights, which was season 2, episode 3, Love and Incarceration. Some of the main points that I discussed were the pros and cons to being in a relationship with someone incarcerated. I also gave some tips on managing it should you be in that situation. And I actually gave some thought-provoking questions you should ask when considering this kind of relationship. If you would like to go back and view it, my episodes are all housed on my YouTube page at Ask Carla. For legal purposes, I do have to mention this, and to add to this disclaimer, the information shared and topics that I talk about here on the Us Review is merely an opinion. The information should not be considered as legal or financial and professional advice. If you require such advice, I recommend seeking professional help in these areas. Once again, good morning, and if you are just tuning in, this is the Us Review, Season 2, Episode 4, Prenup. Should I do or should I don't? So let me start off by asking this question. What exactly is a prenup for those of you whom are unaware? A prenup is a contract between two people before marriage. This is where each party lists all the properties they own, as well as any debts, any assets, and any other belongings that specifies what happens should the marriage end. The contract actually explains the rules that the individuals have agreed upon prior to getting married. This is probably during the counseling portion. You guys are laying out, the wedding and all these different things. This is something that you guys should actually discuss. Whether it is a situation or something that you feel is good for you or not. It's totally up to the two individuals that are involved. Let me give you some statistics. The National Prenuptial Statistics state that almost 50% of people that get married feel like a prenup is actually helpful. They feel like it's helpful. 63% said that having a prenup actually raises the stakes for their marriage, that it will end in divorce. And this is more so, I've heard a lot of people say that you're actually setting yourself up for failure, or you're starting with the end in mind. No, I like to look at it should you and your mate decide to actually go with a prenup, this is actually being organized and prepared for what could possibly happen. It's nothing wrong with doing that. Good morning for those of you who are tuning in. 15% of the individuals that actually got a divorce that did not have a prenup, they wish that they had. And all of these are statistics coming from, the national information that is collected. So with that said, today is season 2, episode 4, entitled Prenup. Should I do or should I don't? Today I'm going to discuss some pros and some cons to having or not having a prenup. And should you decide to get one, I'm going to actually discuss what should be included. I will also talk about what is a sunset clause. A lot of people don't know what a sunset clause is, and I'm going to give you some examples of those towards the end. Once again, good morning. But before I go into that discussion, I always like to start with my preface. Today, my preface will come from my novel, I'm Not a Homewrecker, Opportunist Maybe, from chapter 4, entitled New Day, New Old Folly, page 32, paragraph 1. But before I do that, once again, I always stop to show you my novel, which is, here it is, I'm Not an Opportunist, I'm Not a Homewrecker, Opportunist Maybe. Here's the back. So that's this. This is where I'm going to take my preface. And if those of you who want to catch up with the series, this is The Woman Tells. I went through this during season 1. And all of the episodes, basically, I took my prefaces from here. So this is The Woman Tells. This is the first book in the series. And I'm Not a Homewrecker, Opportunist Maybe is the second one, which I'm going to be taking my preface from this morning. And also, this is newly released. We are on the show, the Us Review. I talk about relationships and various controversial topics that apply to relationships. This is just a fun tool that I also put together. It's called the Relationship Color Palette. It stemmed from when I wrote the article in the Waymaker Journal, which you can see at www.waymakerjournal.com. And you can also purchase this at Amazon. My relationship color palette, you scan it, you take the test, and it goes on from there. So this is a relationship color palette assessment guide. This is, once again, The Woman Tells. This is the book that I used for season 1. And this is where I'm going to take my preface from this morning. And once again, all of them can be purchased at Amazon. And I'm Not a Homework Opportunist Maybe, and The Woman Towels, you can get it at barnesandnoble.com. You can get it at all of them you can get at my website, askcarladl.com. And the 2 books, the 2 novels, you can also get at the 900 Michigan Avenue at the Volumes Bookstore, 5th floor in the Bloomingdale's building. So keep that in mind, but let's get to it. So this morning, once again, my preface is going to come from page 32, chapter 4, New Day, Old Folly. I'm going to start at paragraph 1, and it goes something like this. Good morning to those of you who are tuning in. My sister was due to come home a day before my prom to help me. My dad was psyched to have both of us under the same roof again. My sister had made her life. She was also bringing a guy with her to meet us. She had met somebody that she really liked. When she called home to tell us that she was bringing him, I asked, was he really or her? Reminiscing on her prior life before college, my sister was one always going through a fad. Nevertheless, we were happy she was coming and glad to meet her guy. She was staying for 2 weeks. It was great that my activities were late May and hers was late April, early May. My dad and I, along with one of his other daughters, my half-sister, and my aunt, went up for my sister's graduation. We did not get to meet her guy because he was out of the country on business. My sister met him at her current job. He was one of the promising career figures working for her company. He traveled quite often for the company. He made great money, according to my sister, and treated her like a queen. Did I fail to say that my sister was a knockout? She just always downplayed herself with dressing tomboyish. I was happy for my sister and hoped that everything would work out for her. She arrived and the party was on. Get the novel, guys. I'm Not a Homeworker Opportunist Maybe. So that's my preface today once again. I'd like to say thank you to those who are tuning in. If you are just tuning in, this is the Us Review, Season 2. Episode 4, and it's entitled Prenup. Should I do or should I don't? Some of you may be wondering, why should I get a prenup? Why do I need a prenup? If you are considering, getting married, you need to have that question answered in your mind. And I'm going to give you some information this morning that can possibly help you figure out, you and your partner, whether or not it is necessary for you or not necessary. However, if you consider the stats on divorce, which are 50% of marriages in the United States actually end, as such, the reasons why a marriage, could, and it actually varies, but the end results are always the same, that you're, having to break up the assets and go through all of that. Starting out with a plan can give you a peace of mind. Basically looking at it, you want to look at it very positively, or just look at it with the glass half full rather than half empty, thinking that it's something bad. It's not something bad to be organized and prepared. So with that said, I'm going to start off. Let's talk about some pros to having a prenup. I'm going to start with the first one. First of all, should the marriage end, it allows you, if you have a prenup, you and your partner to make decisions and not have a lawyer or a judge, lay out everything for you, because you already have it prepaid, pre-prepared, pre-laid out what's going where, how you're going to do things. And it's simple, point blank, and it's not a judge, like laying things out, and a lawyer, telling you your rights and everything. And you're like, hey, this is not cool, you're unhappy or whatever, because you guys took the time up front to do it. Then you're more apt to be, happy, or I shouldn't say happy, because you're ending a relationship. You're more apt to have less fighting, shall I say. Number two, it would make the legal process once again smoother, which would help avoid the long, emotional, draining court battles over assets. It's really crazy. And I have to say, it doesn't have to necessarily, we're talking about a prenup this morning, but just laying things out in general. And I'm just going to throw this out there. This could be another show. Just having yourself prepared, knowing what your actual intentions are and what you want to happen should something happen to you, or should something happen to your spouse. Just having things laid out. I see a lot of times when there are funerals and people pass on, and I'm going through this, I have been through this myself. It makes it more easy when everything is laid out. Stuff is not done at the last minute, and people, because people tend to have very bad intentions. They tend to do things that are very hurtful or whatever. The more you're prepared, the more you have conversation, the more you actually state things up front, makes it very much easier to go through a situation. Number three, it forces couples to talk about your finances. Sometimes I've heard couples talk about, well, I don't really know, what he has or what he does or how many bank accounts or whatever else. It's nothing wrong with knowing that. I think as couples and individuals that are building their lives together, you should know those things, but how you run your relationship is up to you. These are just things to prevent having a bad situation happen in the future. If you're just tuning in, good morning. This is season 2, episode 4, prenup. Should I do or should I don't? I'm talking about right now the pros of having a prenup. Number 4, it can protect children involved, and this is definitely a positive for a blended family. If you're both bringing children into the marriage, what do you want both of them to have? What did you have prior to coming in? What is where, what are your assets and where do you want them to be? When you come together, you start building together, that's a different thing. But this can definitely protect children that are involved. And not to say that you're not going to state that or have something for your spouse or the person that you're getting with. Most definitely, that's not excluding that. It's just laying things out in writing. Number 5, it can protect a business. If you guys have a business, or you have a business going into a relationship or whatever, it protects the what should happen with that, should something happen. So it protects that. It can protect personal property, something that, maybe you have a ring from your parent, your mother, or something that you really want it to go to your daughter, However, if it's not laid out, all of that stuff gets put into the mix, and it could fall into hands that you would have wanted to see in your child's hand. However, number 7, it offers transparency and clarity. It helps you guys to be very in that transparency and the clarity. What I mean by that is you guys are being sincere. You're an open book, which that you guys are reading each other's book, and there's no secrets. There are no stuff in a closet or whatever else. You're upfront and you're being honest and everything. You're transparent. You're laying your cards out on the table. This is where I'm at. This is where, you're who I want to be with. So this is what it is, take it or leave it. And so once again, it offers transparency and clarity. It prevents disputes that I've been talking about all the time. Definitely disputes, over this, over that, it's just, it can be a mess. It provides security. If your spouse is with you, let's say for instance, it's a stay-at-home mom or a stay-at-home dad, and you're the person that have been the sole provider as far as finances, and they are feeling like, I've stayed home, I've taken care of the kids, I've done all of this. However, what I bring to the table is not financial, it's something else. That would help to provide, and that's just one example, that would help to provide some security, some, self-reassurance, some assurance that, we are in this together. No matter, we're both bringing something to the table. It may be differences, but, you love me enough to make sure that I'm taken care of when you're gone, and that's very big. And number 10, and then I'm going to move on to some cons, because I could go on and on and on about pros. I can go on and on and on about cons. I'm only throwing a few out there to get some thought-provoking questions that you might, like, oh, pop in your head that, you're about to get married. Maybe I need to ask this. Maybe I need to do this. It may have been some things that you didn't think about. So this show, the Us Review, we try to help you to think about situations. It's merely an opinion, like I said. However, it's thought-provoking. Number 10, it minimizes, once again, the arguments. I keep saying it, disputes, arguments, is all around. So once again, the prenup, it lays out some things, and those are some of the pros. Let's discuss the cons now. I can tell you, talking about stuff like that can get a little antsy, a little uncomfortable, and it can be a romance killer. So I wouldn't suggest that if you guys got candles out and wine and you're like in a romantic mood, that you bring that up at that very moment. Maybe you schedule it out and schedule some time to actually, go somewhere, talk about it, and say, this is what this weekend we're going to take time out this day to discuss, whether or not this is right for us, and we're going to discuss what happens or what is going to actually go into it. Not when you're, in a romantic mood, because it is definitely can be a romantic killer. It can be unbalanced if not set up properly, so you definitely want to, like I said, seek that professional help with a lawyer or whatever, get that advice and have it done appropriately. It can be unbalanced. One may feel like, okay, you're getting this. Well, what about me? I'm only getting this or whatever. You don't want that. If you decide to do that, you want to make sure that it's definitely balanced. Or if it is unbalanced, that you guys have talked about it and you agree to it. Number 3, it can create distrust. And I use this one as to talk about. I always mention movies that the distrust. I don't know why this clicked in my head. Is that hey, you got all the stuff laid out. If this person passes along, I get all of this, really? You're walking around, is this person trying to murder me? No, hopefully that's not the case. It's just, it can create distrust, but I'm using it, in a humorous way. But you do need to, think about that portion and just make sure that everyone is being upfront and that hopefully you can trust your partner. Number 4, it can create uncertainty and a feeling of inadequacy. What do I mean by that? Meaning that the uncertainty is because possibly maybe your spouse or the person that you're getting with is more accomplished, or you feel like they're more accomplished than you are, and that they're bringing a little bit more to the table, and you're uncertain, and you're feeling, like you're inadequate. Well, here's the time to talk about, hey, can we do some things together, possibly build together to, make you feel a little bit better, or you do some things. I always talk about that, hey, it's never a bad time to get started on doing anything that you want to do because it's your life, but as a con in like a prenup situation, it can create a feeling of inadequacy when you start laying things out. Number 5, wonder if, you can wonder if the marriage will last due to what people's real intentions are. They're seeing all what you have, and sometimes you want to hide it because you don't want them, to marry me because they, don't love me, or, they're marrying me for, whether or not, and this is another one, because they marry me for money. Once again, you got to know who you're getting with. That's why I always say time kind of tells a person, fills it out. I'm not a big advocate of jumping into a situation very quickly. I like to weigh things out and see where it's going and how it is, because once again, the longer you're in a relationship, and not saying wait 100 years, I'm not saying that at all, but you need to know, and let some things just kind of happen. And then you kind of, fill out whether or not this personality is going to match with this personality. Number 6, easier to walk away. People feel like if things are laid out like that, it's on paper, and I'm getting this, I'm getting that, people get greedy. It's easier for a person to say, well, hey, we got a prenup, we can just go ahead and, whatever. Once again, at the end of the day, relationships hopefully are built on love. It's a lot of other things that make it up. But at the end of the day, the person you're with, hopefully you love them. And all of these, like, thoughts of distrust and easily walking away, you're worried about this, feeling inadequate. Who are you with? At the end of the day, I have to ask that question. Number 7, I have already said it, marrying for money. It gives you that thought. This is this is a con. And all of these things that I'm stating, definitely I did research, I looked it up, and these were the most mentioned. All of the pros that I only took 10 of them today, and today I'm only taking like marrying for money was the last one of the cons that I'm going to talk about. All of this is research. Definitely, some of the stuff is from talking to people. Once again, it's all built up on my show. It's merely an opinion. Once again, if you're in this situation, I do highly recommend getting some professional help, someone that makes that a career of servicing people to help them in these areas. So keep that in mind. Now, let's say you and your spouse or your partner, you're deciding to get married and you're trying to figure out what works best for you, and you do decide that a prenup is good. Now, once again, should you decide a prenup is the best way to go, what are some things that you should actually include in the prenup? I'm going to run down some of those things that, should you decide it is the best way to go, you are going to get it. These are just a few things that you should make sure that are in there. Once again, I'm sure there's a checklist. The professional that's handling it should be able to walk you through everything that's going to be in there, and you can go from there. But here are some things. Let me rattle them off. First of all, marital property and physical assets. That's kind of a gimme, what should be in a prenup. Number 2, the provisions for the children, like I talked about, definitely if it's a blended family and you're bringing children into there. However, even if it's not a blended family and you guys have the children together, that it's your both biological child, you still should lay out definitely what the children should, how that's going to work. Number 3, child support and custody. Should you guys split, what should happen? They're going to spend 50% of their time with each parent. Is it going to be one parent has them all through the school year and this parent gets them over the summer? And that's things that can actually be laid out to what should happen about the custody and the child support. The custody piece, I think that it should not be based on how the parents are feeling. It should be based on what is best for the children. Definitely what's best for the children, what's going to make their lives very much easier or easiest as possible, due to that they are, should the marriage end, going through a very tough situation that they're used to parents being together and now they're separated in 2 different households that they got to bounce back and forth through. This would help with that. And once again, it's not that you're starting with the end in mind. You're thinking smart, and you're thinking about the possibilities of something that could happen. Moving right along, the financial responsibility, how is that going to be laid out? The division of marital debt. Not only are we talking about assets, we're talking about debt. Should you accumulate debt together, in the marriage splits? Or, once again, it was like when you go into a prenup, you're laying out your assets and your debts. It could be that the person that had that you're going into it with has a lot of debt. Then how's that going to be worked out? Because that was yours coming in, it should be yours going out. But if it's together, how are you guys going to handle that debt? Number 6, amount of alimony or spousal support. We talked about the stay-at-home mom, the stay-at-home dad. What happens in that situation? Good morning for those of you who are just tuning in. This is season 2, episode 4, prenup. Should I do or should I don't? We're talking about just things that should actually go inside of a prenup, should you decide to get one. The amount of alimony or spousal support. Number 7 is division of business earnings. Should you guys have a business together? Whatever the business thing is, that should be laid out. If one is 51, one is 49, if it's 50-50, however it's going to be. Should one pass, how does that get handled? Does the business get dissolved? Does it move on to the next person, to the spouse that's there? How does that get worked out? So those are just a few things that should actually be included in the prenup. Once again, you should seek professional help, like I always say, and just lots of communication, lots of discussion around this should happen, and this should happen definitely prior to a marriage, going into the marriage or whatever. It should definitely be talked about. Now, let me ask you, I mentioned this a little bit earlier. I said that I was going to talk about are you aware of what a sunset clause is? I did mention that I was going to go over this a little bit as well. Well, let me give you a definition of what it is. First of all, a sunset clause is simply defines the time or stipulation at which the terms of a prenuptial agreement expires. With that said, you're probably like, what? What is that? Let me give you some examples. The first example I'm going to give you, I'll give you 4 or 5. The prenup can have a clause to say the agreement expires after 20 years. So you guys can, once again, you can sit down and you decide to get the prenup and you're like, well, I'm, nervous that you're going to leave me or whatever else, and you can set a clause in there after 20 years, if we stood together, it's apparent that we love each other, we're going to be together, no one's going anywhere. After 20 years, let's just make it dissolve. Let's just dissolve it. So for 20 years, we're going to protect ourselves and we're still getting to know each other in the marriage. Things are happening, whatever. And if we make it to 20 years, then we're just going to dissolve it and let the stuff happen that happens. That's number 1. Number 2, it could say it expires after a birth of a child. You could say, well, I don't want you, we're getting together. We don't have any attachments. And you're basing it off an attachment. So I'll get this prenup, but if we have a child, I don't want this in place because I want everything to be 50-50 or whatever. The sunset clause can say it expires after a birth of a child. Let me give you a third one. Maybe after a partner pays off a certain debt. Maybe you want a prenup because going into it, you knew that the person that you're marrying had a specific debt and you're uncomfortable with it. So you said, I'm willing to do everything else, but this debt here is causing me heartburn and it's going to put us in a situation. So I feel that you need to take care of that before I fully commit to you and just open up everything that I have for this. That's what that's saying, that a certain partner, a certain debt, once you get that paid off, then the prenup is null and void or expires. That's a sunset clause. Number 4, maybe the financial situation will even out over time. So let's talk about net worth. Maybe your partner is worth, I'll just throw some figures out here, 2.5 million and you're worth 30,000. Okay, that's extreme. Maybe. And you're saying, okay, so what if I go, invent something and it goes whatever, and it gets to a place, you had me, in this prenup that I'm only going to do this. So should I bring this in, should I make something and have a discovery and my net worth balances out to be the same as yours, then maybe the person that has all of that, they'll feel more comfortable because you're bringing the same amount to the table. Then once you're there and we can verify that I'm here, you're here, we're like equal ground, then we'll terminate it. That's a sunset clause, that the situation evens out over time. Number 5, you just set a time frame, once again, it doesn't have to necessarily be a situation that says if this happened, then this happens. If that happens, then this will happen. It could just merely be when you sit down, you say, if we're together 10 years, you were not comfortable when we got it, but we love each other, we want to get it, but we want everybody to be comfortable in the situation. Then let's just set a time frame. If we're together 10 years, then we're going to have it be expired, and we're just going to go on with life as it is. That is a sunset clause. So once again, if you have any questions about anything that I talk about or you want to talk about it further, once again, you can DM me, and I definitely would love to have a conversation with you. Once again, today, if you're just tuning in, this is season 2, episode 4. I'm talking about prenup. Should I do or should I don't? And I just got through talking about what is a sunset clause. At the end of the day, it's between you and your partner to decide whether or not a prenup is for you. It's up to you and your partner to say, should I do or should I don't? Make sure to go to seek some professional help. Like I said, this show, I do research, I look up the information. It's not just something I'm pulling out of a hat, a rabbit out of a hat. I do my research, and I do throw my opinions in there. So it is based on opinions, research, or whatever. But at the end of the day, if you are looking for professional help, you should actually seek that person out to get that advice from the one that is a professional in that area. And if this is right for you in your situation, I say, when you're sitting down doing it and you guys are laying all your cards on the table and you're trying to get everything together, ask lots of questions. Don't leave any stone unturned that you can think of. And at the end of the day, review it and review it again. And if you're comfortable, move forward. If you're not, then hey, don't move forward. Once again, should I do, should I don't? Until you, once again, are comfortable, it's your decision. It's you and your partner's decision, whatever you decide. So I am Carla Davis Luster. This is my show today. Once again, I'll say it again. I am Carla Davis Luster, and this is the Us Review. Today was season 2, episode 4, Prenup. Should I do or should I don't? You can follow me across all of the platforms at Ask Carla. You can purchase all of my novels at Amazon, BarnesandNoble.com, at my website that I'd love for you to check out. My profile and everything is on there. I do speaking engagements, whatever. You can find all of that there at AskCarlaDL.com, and I'm very happy. If you just want to DM me, have a conversation, we can do that too. And also, I do have another show that I do. It's called The Information Exchange. That's more about careers, entrepreneurship, and things of the sort. People, with their career ideas, we give career advice, and I have like some very, very cool people. The next one coming up will be August 17th, and I'm not going to let the cat out of the bag yet on who I'm having, but I have some really, really cool people. And for those of you who tuned into the last information exchange, there was a guest that was unable to be on due to technical difficulties, we'll call it. We are planning something around that so that you will see them. So keep that in mind. Once again, I am Carla Davis Luster. This is the Us Review. Let me throw this out there. Next week is July 4th of July. A lot of you will be eating barbecue and popping firecrackers and things of the sort. So there will not be a show next week on July 4th. However, tune in. I am back July 11th with season 2, episode 5. And with that being said, have a safe and a happy holiday. Those of you in Chicago, NASCAR is what's happening this weekend, you guys. NASCAR is what's happening. So once again, have a happy holiday. Be safe, and I look to see you again back on June 11th on Tuesday, 9 a.m. on Facebook and on TikTok. Thank you. I'm Carla Davis Luster. Let me throw one more thing out there that I'm about to forget. This outfit that I'm wearing today, it comes from Ani's Accents, a boutique, which is down by my UPS store. It's located at 1237 South Michigan Avenue, and Ani, she is an amazing stylist. We are colleagues, shall I say, but this is one of her outfits that I got from her store. I like to support definitely my supporters, but I like to support everyone that's doing something and kind of pub them. She will be eventually on the information exchange, and you'll get to hear her story. Once again, it's Ani's Accents at 1237 South Michigan Avenue. She has some fabulous things in there. When I'm styling people, I have gotten some things out of there to style them. So once again, you are tuning into the Us Review. This is season 2, episode 4. This is the end of the show. And please tune in back on July 11th for season 2, episode 5. Take care.